Math you can manage.
Today's lesson is equivalent fractions, standard 5.NF.1. First, let's check and make sure you know the basics of what a fraction is. Fractions are part of a whole. Often, you see them demonstrated as pieces of a complete circle, or in bar form. When written, a fraction has a numerator, which tells how many parts there are. And the denominator tells how many parts it takes up to make up the whole. If you aren't familiar with what a basic fraction is, you might not be ready for this lesson. So an equivalent fraction with the root word equal simply means fractions that identify the same amount of space within the whole, but are partitioned or cut into different size pieces. Equivalent fractions are super easy to see when it's in a visual model like this. But when written with numbers, it may be harder to tell if fractions are equivalent. It's important to be comfortable with equivalent fractions without models because it will help you with more complex operations with fractions, such as adding and subtracting fractions or simplifying fractions. By the end of this video, you should be able to generate equivalent fractions, and I will help you get there. All of these fraction models are equivalent, but look at the way they're written in number form above. If you just saw the fractions written, the models are gone, could you tell they're equivalent? The key is to look at the relationship between the numbers. Let's first look at 1/2 and 2/4. With the model, you can easily see that it's the same amount of pink space. But why do the fractions look so different? The difference is I've cut the pie into more pieces than it was in before. I went from 2 pieces to 4 pieces, right? So essentially, that's multiplying the amount of pieces by 2. 2 times 2 is 4. I now have twice as many pieces. If I now have more total pieces in the whole thing, of course that will affect the numerator or the top of the fraction as well in the same way. It will also have twice. This rule is true for all equivalent fractions. Whatever adjustment or operation is done to the bottom of the fraction, the same, remember, equivalent means equal, the same thing is done to the top of the fraction. This keeps the fractions equal in the amount of space they take up. Let's do that again without any pictures this time. I will show you this example, so you watch closely. Complete the equivalent fraction 1/3 equals how many sixths? You can visualize the shape cut into 3 pieces total with 1 colored in. If I take that same visual and go from 3 portions to 6, what did I multiply those pieces by? Yes, 2 again. 3 times 2 would make 6. I doubled the total pieces, so what would I do to my numerator? Same thing. Remember the math rule, same thing happens to the bottom and the top of the fraction. Grab your pencil and paper to try another one. I promise you won't regret practicing. Remember, the more you practice, the sooner the skill will become mastered for you. Complete this equivalent fraction. Think about the relationship between the 1 and the 6 on the tops of each fraction. Pause the video to write what 1 is being multiplied by to get 6. That's right. Remember, again, with the rule, if I do something, in this case, multiply by 6 on the top of the fraction, you have to do the same thing to the bottom. Pause the video to finish this up. When you multiply both the top and the bottom by 6, the equivalent fraction is now 6/24. Let's see a little model of that. I started with 1/4, but when multiplying, I'm partitioning my model into more pieces. Multiply means more. To find equivalent fractions, we learned you simply multiply both the numerator and the denominator of a fraction by the same number. This pattern can actually be repeated as many times as necessary. The digits will just continue to get larger and larger. Now that's some good stuff to know. Try one on your own to see if you've got it. Pause the video to complete the equivalent fraction for 3/4. Now check your work. If you found 3/4 is equivalent to 6/8, you can manage equivalent fractions. If you're still struggling, rewatch the video or reach out to a parent or teacher for help. Thanks for watching. I hope this video helped you manage.